If you're tired of doing sales calls, having your calendar absolutely full with back-to-back sales calls, strategy sessions, free coaching, whatever you want to call it, I can absolutely relate. It was something that I did for many, many years. And don't get me wrong, I still think that doing sales calls in your business is the fastest way you can go from zero to your first $10,000, $20,000 months. However, it does get to a point where you kind of get burnt out between your coaching and your obligations to your clients and creating content. And of course, the sales calls on top of that, something's got to give. Now, I know that did for my business, and I know that did for hundreds of others as well. Now, what I'm going to show you guys in this is the 3 core pillars of any business and how you can start what you do with each pillar in order to minimize the impact of your conversion system. Now, in plain English, what I'm talking about there is quite simply readjusting where you put emphasis within your business to your offer, to your audience, and how you're actually structuring your content such that it eases the sales pressure. It means that you don't even need sales calls by going through this process. Now, before I dive into all that, welcome to the channel. My name is Gardiner, and since 2011, I've been an online marketer doing everything from affiliate marketing, ran an agency for a little while. I've done consulting work. I run an Etsy store, which is on the verge of hitting $1 million over the next sort of like 6 to 7 months, which is kind of nice. Also have Amazon products. I've done a bunch of e-commerce stuff. And what I really do here is just talk about what's worked for me and what is working for me in my business, and hopefully helping a few of you guys out as well. Also, I forgot to mention, won an award for surpassing $1 million through a single funnel, teaching folks how to build a brand and sell affiliate products as well, which was really cool. So if that's of interest, love to have you guys on board. Feel free to hit the subscribe button and drop any comments below. Always love to hear your feedback, good, bad, or otherwise. And yeah, let's kick things off. Right, so if we make a few bold assumptions here, now I'm going to draw a big yellow square for some interesting reason. I don't know why that turned up yellow, but let's change that, shall we? And effectively, if we look at our business, and it's made up of 3 components. You have to use your imagination a little bit in this one, right? So the 3 core components of any business are, number 1, at the top, we've got our offer. It's going to be a very odd looking shape. We've got our conversion mechanism, and we've got our audience, right? Now, in a traditional sense, this is how I used to think of business. I used to think of each pillar having 1/3 weighting within your business, right? So if we assume that your offer is around about 33%, your conversion system around about 33%, that's a very odd 33, but you get the idea, and your audience around about 33%. Now, turns out I was wrong. Welcome to marketing. It's all about testing stuff, right? Now, here's the crazy thing. What this means is that if you have an average offer, your sales process needs to be really dialed in, right? You need to have setters and closers and like high pressure bullshit and all that type of stuff, right? If you spend a disproportionate amount of time within your business working on your offer up here, that is not what I wanted, your offer, now the stats start to look a little bit different. So if we have an offer that alleviates the pain for your audience, which it should do anyway, we can clearly articulate to the audience that it is alleviating that pain. If we are also able to minimize the risk and impact that someone has when they jump into that offer, as well as also making it seem so simple that anyone can get results as long as it's within our specific demographic that we're targeting, basically, right? Now, if we work on those things, what's likely to happen is this is all of a sudden going to be more like 67% of the weighting within the 3 pillars, right? So that means that it's taking a load off the other 2 pillars, okay? So then between those, we've got, say, what's the math on that? Say 16.5 each, right? Something like that. Hopefully I'm good with my math on that one. Now, there is one other thing. We can have this, so this is almost negligible. You still need some sort of sales process, right? But it becomes negligible as to what it is and exactly how you're structuring it if we do one other thing. And that is we put emphasis on our audience, okay? Now, if we put emphasis on our audience, what we need to start thinking of is basically looking at what problem does our offer resolve, okay? If we've got our offer here and we know that our audience has their problems over here, now we've got, tail, why is that like that? A little bit pedantic, but you kind of get the point. Now we've got 2 things, right? We've got the solution to their problem, okay? Now, this is really powerful. What that means is that if we're able to clearly articulate to our audience that, hey, we understand your problem. We understand what you're coming up against. We understand what it feels like. We understand the frustration. We understand that if you had a solution to that, you'd be pretty chuffed, right? And if we're able to articulate that in our content we're able to put that forward in our content, it then means that people are being pre-sold on our solution. Now, also, probably helps if you are mentioning that you have a solution, okay? Can't just kind of go, hey, by the way, I understand your problem. Cool, all right, good on. Where's the money? We can't really do that. What we need to do is help to articulate to our audience that we understand their problem, that we understand the frustrations, that we feel their pain. And if they want to resolve that pain, there is a solution, okay? And when you're doing this on repeat, and you're talking about the pain that your offer resolves, and you're talking about the solution and what people feel like after they've gone through this, and how it was for you in the beginning versus how it is now, and why you really don't want to have these types of pains anymore, and why your solution is just so amazing. Now what we're doing is we're basically creating a dichotomy in our prospect's mind, and we're basically showing like, hey, here's how it could be for you, and here's where you currently are. I understand your problem, but here's what it could be like on the other side, right? Hopefully this is making sense. And so then if we're doing this stuff, we've got all these, problems, pains are bad, and this is bad, this is bad. Over here, we've got tickety-boo, tickety-boo, tickety-boo. Now we've got a big giant tick in the middle, right? Because people understand, oh, someone finally gets me. They understand my pains, my frustrations, all that type of stuff. Oh, there is a solution out there. Brilliant, okay. Now what tends to happen is if you haven't solved this issue for anyone else, you only have your own results, okay? So you start off with that. Now that might mean if you've got a coaching offer or a course or anything like that, you might need to go get some free beta testers. You take them through this process, you help them out, get some amazing results for them. And then all of a sudden you've got social proof in the form of testimony, people singing your praises because you've actually been able to help them out. And then you can start monetizing off the back of that. It's actually really simple, okay? A lot of folks, they just go, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to copy someone else and do that thing and sell it. Sure, can work, but it's going to feel more congruent for you if you've actually been able to resolve that issue, not just for yourself, but for other people as well. And then you can start to learn what your style is, how you can articulate things to people, so on and so forth. Right, so all this in mind, now all of a sudden it means that we've got a really, really simple sales process in the middle. I say simple because it can be as simple as literally you hand someone a Google Doc, you send them an email, you type out a DM with an offer. You get really flexible depending on what their needs are, okay? This is kind of the cool thing is that one size doesn't necessarily fit all with your offer. Yeah, you can have like the major pillars of your offer and it's like, hey, it's going to remove this pain and you're going to get this outcome and it's a tangible thing that you can point to on the other side. And it's going to be, minimizing risk by having this much risk, for you, and like this is how other people have done it. So it seemed really simple. You can have all that stuff and it doesn't matter where you put it. But then of course, if you are dealing with people on an individual basis, whether that is back and forth via email, if it is, DMs, if you do still take sales calls, absolutely fine. In fact, I had a hybrid model for quite a while, which was basically where what I was doing for my one-on-one students is I was dropping an offer doc over. So this is on a couple of presuppositions, right? Number one is that they'd spent time consuming me and my content. They kind of knew who I was, what I was all about, what I represented, my philosophies, how I've helped other people in the past, things like that. So they kind of had an idea of who I was. And then I'd just say, look, here's my offer. I'd love to work with you. Let me know if that's of interest. If you want to hop on a call, happy to have a chat, right? And so what would happen is they're already 90% of the way pre-sold. And then I'll just hop on a call with them and it would be really casual. It wouldn't even be a sales call. It would just be like, hey, great to catch up, blah, blah, blah. What are you looking at doing? Okay, this is how I think I can help with that. Bang. This is a solution. This is what the pathway looks like for you. Would you like to lock it in? Right? Real simple. No high pressure stuff. And if they said, no, thanks, it's not for me. Okay, cool. No worries at all. Thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Right. And so that when I had that hybrid model, it worked really well for closing at a very, very high percentage rate as well. So, but then I eliminated it. I thought, well, if I'm that far down the track, then I probably don't need to go necessarily have the calls, which is why I started looking at this stuff. Now, you can also have all sorts of things in here. I also have something called my lazy launch method. And that's basically where you run a simple virtual event. You present something even as simple as what I'm showing on my screen here. And then you make an offer at the end of it. Really, really simple stuff, right? If you do that on the repeat, you're going to get repeat buyers. You're going to get folks filling in your high ticket, your low ticket, your medium, your recurring, all that type of stuff as well. Now, all that being said, with these things, now we've got a situation that looks a little bit different. So I'm going to draw a little fulcrum. We've got our little seesaw thing happening over here. And we've got our offer over here, right? And we've got audience stuff. So then the question remains, okay, so the conversion system, like I say, it can be literally just lobbing over an offer doc to them. It can be typing in DMs. It can be going back and forth in email. We pick up the phone if you really want to go down that pathway. sending SMSs back and forth. There's no real right or wrong way to do it. It's really up to you and what you prefer. Now, me personally, I just wanted a clear calendar, so I run the occasional virtual event. I also just make offers daily in my email and on my social posts. I create YouTube content like this when I have the time and inclination, all designed to help folks get some epiphanies, get some insights, and lead them closer to the pathway, which is my Monetise Your Tribe program. Now, I'm going to leave a link below if you're interested in checking that out. We are having a bit of an intake. I'm doing something a little bit different at the moment, whereas I'm making it more accessible for everyone. I really want to serve more and more people with this thing. So check that out. If it's of interest, let me know in the comments and I'll say, cool. Right, so then the question remains, the last piece of the puzzle here, right? I covered the offer. I covered roughly how you can start to think about the stuff from a content perspective and understanding those two dualities between the solution that you have and then the problems that people are facing, and then obviously tying that knot between those. But the last piece is like, okay, what do we do with that offer? How do we spruce that up? Now, I covered this in the beginning, but to kind of recap a couple of things there, what you want to do is you want to ideally look to emphasize how it's going to help folks. You want to clearly articulate with what the outcome is. Now, this is a funny thing because a lot of the time people are promoting coaching in different courses, things like that, where there isn't really a tangible outcome. It's kind of like, certain spiritual things, for example, like how do you know once you've hit enlightenment, right? Like how do you know when you've made it to that point? And so you need to get a little bit creative about this stuff and start to figure out, well, what is the thing that you can point to that after they go through this process, they're going to get this solidified singular outcome out of it, right? So that's number one, is you need an outcome that you can point to. Now, to give you an example, for my Monetise Your Tribe, I'll show you a really simple process that you can eliminate sales calls and start to attract 3 to 5 high-paying customers over the next 60 to 90 days of working, right? Or at the moment, because I'm kind of going through a bit of a metamorphosis at the moment, and so I'm sort of adjusting things on the fly, but effectively it is at the moment, I will help you build your recurring income to 3 to 5K working together closely over the next 60 to 90 days. Now, that's a tangible outcome, right? Recurring income, 60 to 90 days, 3 to 5 grand, right? That's kind of the tangible thing that you can point to on the other side of it, okay? So it needs to have, I'm going to write some stuff down here for you guys. Where are we? It's big, no, large, there we go. So number one is you need a tangible outcome. Points to, something you can point to, yeah? You also need clear articulation of that problem. Okay, need to be able to clearly articulate, here's what you're going to get, here's what blah blah. Now, I've seen offers before, reviewed an offer doc, and it was like 24 pages, and I don't know how it's sold. I really don't, because I got bored. Why fill it? Now, there is an argument to say, well, you need to have really good copy to sell the thing. Yes and no, because going back up to my example here, if you've got a great offer, and you've got great articulation of what the pain points are and the outcome that your offer can resolve, then it's going to take a weight off that anyway. So you don't need a huge emphasis in the middle. You need to minimize risk. Minimize, that sounds right. How do you spell minimize? Minimize Z. Right, minimize risk. Now, you can have guarantees, of course. But risk, it comes in many formats. It doesn't necessarily mean like a financial risk, right? It could be risk of looking like the fool. It could be risk of loss of time, risk of failure, risk of loss of face, things like that. So there's different formats of risk, right? So if you make it simple outcome, that's also going to help, okay? So if you make something really complex, then people aren't going to, they're not going to think that they're going to be able to do it. So therefore, they're less likely to do it. Simple outcome, minimize risk. Just threw my mouse on the ground accidentally. Welcome to another video with Jamie. This is going really according to plan right about now. Anyway, I'll just have to use other things. Or, you know what? I'm just going to get it. No, I can't. It's disappeared over the other side of the bloody wilderness. It's a really fun world over in my place. Cool. Okay, so back on track. Tangible outcome, clear articulation of what to be, minimize risk. Now, and again, I'm not saying it has to be guarantees. It could be things like, for example, you're lowering the barrier of entry pricing perspective. It's not to say that you're undercharging. It might be that you just lower the way that's structured. And I'll give you an example of that. So you could, for example, have a $2,000 offer, or would it be feasible to make it into a payment plan of, say, $199 per month? something like that, right? Is that going to be within the realms of possibility? Now, of course, you're going to have drop-offs and it's going to be, a bigger risk for you. That's kind of the point. It means that you don't necessarily want to have customer taking on, okay? Now, there's a school of thought about arguments to and from. I'll let you decide which way you want to go with that, but that's just another way to minimize risk without. You also have outcome guarantees as well. So instead of thinking, okay, I need to just give the money back, maybe it could be, well, look, you still want the outcome. I will work with you until you get there, okay? If you are doing all the things along the way, I will work with you and give you everything in my power to help you achieve that. Okay, so that's another way that you can make it. Simple outcomes, I mentioned, don't make it overly complex, too long. So those are kind of the main things that I wanted to cover. Deliverables as well. So you want to have clear deliverables. Oops. Clear. Clear deliverables. So those are kind of the main things, right? And if you are working on the tangible outcome, clear articulation, minimizing the risk, simple outcome, clear deliverables, make it doable, right? And this is another thing that is kind of prevalent, and something you need to think of as a coach, mentor, consultant, whatever you want to call yourself, affiliate, etc., is that you might have got some outlier result. And you might have gone viral, for example, or you might have a specific way of doing things that's been built off the back of a loophole that was in existence, 5 years ago or something like that. And it has to be something that is repeatable for others, right? It has to have a clear pathway that is repeatable. If it's not, then you probably need to make this really, really simple. You need to put a lot more work, something that a lot of people. Anyway, that's it, guys. I'm going to minimize that so you can have a look at the whole shebaz again. But there we go. Basically, 3 pillars of your offer, of your business, I should say: offer, conversion mechanism, and your audience. You need eyeballs, obviously. If you spend a disproportionate amount of time on your offer and refining your offer, it's going to take a lot of the weight off the rest of your business as well. And going back to our little fulcrum, that word for going back to that, it's going to then create a difference as to where the weighting is within your business. And then, of course, the audience. And like I say, if you are able to clearly articulate the problems of your audience, the pains of your audience, what they're feeling, what it might feel like to alleviate that pain, that's half the battle with your content, right? That's the messaging part. And then obviously the introduction of your offer. Now, it's not just like, hey, you're experiencing this pain, where's the solution? It could be simple things like another one that I put up in my socials last night was basically one of my beautiful students messaged me and said, hey, I can't come to the coaching call today. I actually just signed on another 2 clients and I need to get prepped before I go to the meeting before that. I was like, you know what? That is a brilliant message to hear. Absolutely fine. I'm so glad that you don't have this coaching call because you've got clients. That is incredible. So, but then what I'm doing, right, is I'm putting that out there. And so I'm basically introducing, well, the solution exists on the other side of me, of my thing, my opportunity. Monetize your tribe, right? So I mentioned these things. And so therefore, if you're able to create that over and over and over again, and over time, what you'll find is that is just marketing. Basically, the more you speak about your program, the results it gets, the results it has got for both yourself and your students, what the community is like, all that type of stuff, bang, that's it. That's half the battle. And that means, like I say, it just takes so much pressure off the ego. So, guys, hope that helps. Drop any comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts below. And, anything you want to learn, just let me know in the comments as well. Also, check out the link below. I'm going to drop a Google Doc there. You're welcome to check that out. See what we're doing and monetize your tribe. Hope to see you on the inside. All right, guys. Thanks very much.